right, welcome back to another episode of Bet GPT. This is episode 74. And Slade, this is our first pod since October 18th. So, for a multitude of reasons, took a couple months off here, but we're ready to get back in the swing of things. We appreciate everyone's patience with us, and thanks for tuning in to a new episode. We have some exciting stuff today. Slade texted me all fired up this morning on quite a few topics. He's actually going to save some topics for a future episode. We're going to get a guest on and grill him into oblivion. But
yep,
that's a little teaser for you. But Slade, how you been, man? What's new?
I'm good. Did you miss me?
Yeah, dude, you're my best man. So we gotta get back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Today I want to talk college football playoff. I know we have that coming up next weekend, so we can look at kind of futures. There's exactas posted, maybe kind of talk about who are the top QBs and if they actually are going to make an impact on the results of these games. And then we can talk, obviously, Kyle Tucker to the Cubs. We'll talk MLB Free Agency and the impact of all these moves. We got the Bill Belichick to UNC conversation. I know that's an in-state team for you, so maybe you got some insight there. And then we can close it out by talking a little Iowa hoops. I know we're very kind of focused on football. We're going to go back to our weekly schedule here, so we'll just talk NFL probably Wednesday or Thursday next week. We'll get back into that, kind of give an update on the awards market, which real quick, if I have a second here on the NFL awards, Pat Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not saying it's going to win. I think we need to keep an eye on that. TJ Watt's the favorite right now. I think he's like minus 150 and Surtain's plus 550. I'm keeping an eye on Surtain. I think he could flip as the favorite if the Broncos beat the Colts and the Steelers have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. With I think they have the Eagles this week, and then they have the Ravens, Chiefs, and then Bengals. So that could easily be 4 losses.
It would be
a
real shame if the Steelers just like close the year out on like a 5-game losing streak or something, and Mike Tomlin needed a change of scenery.
Yeah, you definitely
would not want to see that. Yeah.
In your dreams, they're definitely not getting rid of him. But okay, so let's get into the college football playoff. Just running it through here. We have the first round matchups. Well, we'll talk about as a whole, I guess, conference-wise. Big 12 champ, Arizona State, kind of came out of nowhere. If you looked at our last 6-pack, we actually bet against them. Slade had Cincinnati -5 against their backup QB. And that was their last loss. They've won out since then. They snagged the 4 seed, and they'll be playing the winner of Texas Clemson. We have Oregon off their Big Ten title game. They're going to play the winner of Ohio State Tennessee. Boise State won the Mountain West, highest non-Power 4 team. They'll be playing the winner of Penn State SMU, which SMU lost to Clemson. We can get into that. And then Georgia plays the winner of Notre Dame and Indiana. So I guess I'll hand it over to you. I guess what matchups are you looking forward to? And we'll just
first of all, did you think the committee did a good job?
Anytime the committee leaves Bama out, I'm not going to be happy because I'm biased. Yeah. Can you name a single player on SMU?
Jennings, their quarterback, and Brashard Smith, their running back. That's it.
Okay.
And that's only because I do daily fantasy on Saturdays, and Brashard Smith, their running back, has been like a top 5 player in the country in DFS points.
Gotcha. I have not watched a lot of SMU. I only watched the second half of the Clemson game, so that's my own fault. But I don't know. They deserve it. I mean, Alabama had bad losses. And you gotta, I think, setting a precedent of putting SMU in gives these other teams like they feel like it's actually fair. So.
Did I send some tweets saying SMU shouldn't be in? Yes. Did I mean it? No. I just don't like SMU. But anywho, I think the committee. I don't like the seeding. I don't like that Penn State got a 6 seed, which is fine. I think that's probably the right seed for them. But somehow their punishment for losing that Big Ten title game is they play that 11 seed SMU, who there's a very good argument they might be the worst team of the 12. And then
Yep.
and of course that's at home. Their next game is against Boise State at a neutral site. The 4 teams getting a bye are Oregon, Arizona State, Georgia, and Boise. Out of those 4, I think you can clearly say Boise State's the worst. So their path to making the semifinals would be beating SMU and beating Boise. Very good chance those are the 2 worst teams in the whole bracket. And they got that after losing to Oregon. And somehow the 1 seed Oregon is going to play the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. Those are 2 teams that I think you could probably say are top 5-6 teams. Somehow they got the 8-9 just based off of how the conferences and things worked out. But
Yeah.
Ohio State is still second best odds to win it all, third best. I mean it's
So
it's Oregon, Georgia, and Ohio State every book I see.
Oregon just got absolutely jobbed.
Yeah.
They go undefeated, and their reward is Ohio State, most likely. And then they're still going to have to beat Texas. And then they're going to have to beat, Georgia. And, Carson Beck injury is a whole thing. So I don't really know who's coming out of the bottom. But if Carson Beck does end up playing, beating Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia is like all-time gauntlet. Like no one's in college football history has ever had to do anything like that.
Right. Like
So,
for Ohio State to win it all, they would go through Tennessee, Oregon, probably Texas, probably Georgia. And that's just to keep Ryan Day's job, more than likely. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get fired if they made it that far. I think we're kind of prisoners of the moment a little bit coming off that Michigan loss, but I mean, he's got to win at least one because
their AD said he's already coming back next year, but is he just saying that? Yeah, I don't care.
If their first game's at home, what happens if the first drive of the game they give up a touchdown, the offense goes out there 3 and out? You're telling me that fan base isn't booing a home playoff game? That place hates him right now. So he can say whatever he wants. He's probably penciling in a win for the first round. And then he's thinking, oh, well, hey, we lost with 1 second left to Oregon at Oregon in, was it October, November, whatever it was. So like maybe he thinks they're live there. And worst case, you can say, hey, we lost to the undefeated number 1 seed. We were one of the top 2-3 teams in America. We had a bad loss. We'll get them next year type deal. My initial thoughts were I think Clemson plus 10.5 at Texas is probably decent value. I don't know if we can say Texas is that good. I know they're the 5 seed, but they don't have any good wins.
Well, if only they had a good quarterback to come in and play for them, because Quinn Ewers has not consistently been what they wanted him to be. He was supposed to be Heisman favorite, supposed to kind of vault his draft value up to be a top 5-10 pick, and now you're texting me saying he could potentially transfer and stay another year in school.
There's rumors he's got a $4 million offer from a Big Ten school. So due to the process of elimination, I mean, that narrows it down to like 3 schools that it could possibly be. Oregon jumps out as a possibility since they've gone that route the last 2 years with Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel. I don't think it would be Michigan. I don't think it would be Penn State. Maybe like a USC. I know they're in the market for a quarterback. I don't know. I really don't know. I really doubt it'd be Ohio State considering he already transferred from there. But maybe they still have a good relationship. I don't know. Also, Ohio State has Julian Sayin, the 5-star, supposed future of their program. So I doubt they're looking for him unless they really don't think that guy's ready in year 2, which would be, kind of an indictment on him.
If you're listening to this and you're an Iowa football fan and you have an extra $4 million, maybe donate it. We'd love to have Quinn Ewers on the program.
Yeah, no kidding. I am watching this South Dakota State playoff game. The quarterback for South Dakota State, Mark Gronowski, is a rumored target for Iowa. He's from Naperville, which is the same hometown as Tim Lester. He reportedly had a $1.2 million offer last year, chose to come back. He does have the opportunity to go pro, but he did say it's his dream to play in the Big Ten. So keep an eye on that.
He had a $1.2 million offer and he stayed at his own school.
Yes.
Do FCS schools even have NIL?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's even getting 10% of that.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 years of eligibility at the time. Now he's only got one, so I'm sure his market's lower today. But yeah, I'm sure he's kicking himself a little bit. But if it works out for Iowa, that would be great.
Yeah.
Some other thoughts: Indiana, Notre Dame is like the most expensive ticket for the playoff. Thought that was kind of cool.
Did you see that's Notre Dame's first game on a Friday at home since
I did
1900?
not see that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Notre
Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess who they were playing that day?
University of Chicago.
I'm gonna have to. I gotta find the tweet. Keep going. I'll find
All
it.
right. Yeah, when I look at I think Arizona State. I don't want to overlook them either because it's really hard to know if Clemson and Texas are even that good. Like there's a world where we're sitting here a couple weeks from now, we're like, maybe Texas was just fraudulent all along. I mean, they lost to Georgia by 30 at home or whatever it was, 27 at home. They play a neutral site against Georgia, and with Georgia's starting quarterback goes out, they give up a lead, they lose. Their best win is I think Texas A&M, an 8-4 A&M team. So I mean they have one good win this year. Their resume is really not great. I get it, but
they beat Michigan, who beat Ohio State, who almost beat Oregon.
They beat Vandy, so I guess like that. Who beat Alabama? Like I get that all that. I would have liked to see South Carolina in the playoff. I think that kind of got ruined with Clemson winning, and some other thing, and obviously Ohio State. Ohio State losing to Penn or to Michigan. I don't know how that impacted things as well. I'm sure it helped Indiana a bit, but I personally bet an exacta of Oregon and Georgia. I think it's like plus 750 range
to meet in the finals.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So FanDuel has them listed just exacta. So exact outcomes. Oregon to defeat Georgia is 12-1. Georgia to defeat Oregon 17-1. So I'm guessing you like Oregon over Georgia.
Yes, because if I were to rank the 12 quarterbacks, I think Dylan Gabriel's the one with the highest floor. And that matters when you're playing 4 games. Like maybe he doesn't have the potential to go throw 500 yards and go absolutely nuts. Because I don't think he's maybe the best talented player, but I think he's the one who you can trust that to not go out there and cost you a game and have a bunch of interceptions. When you compare, I mean, look at these quarterbacks. I mean, Sam Leavitt was benched at Michigan State last year. I don't even know that something Madsen or something like that at Boise. He's nothing special.
Maddox Madsen,
yeah,
redshirt sophomore.
Carson Beck's out, so you got Georgia's backup.
Gunnar Stockton,
I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
How much do you trust Quinn Ewers? How much do you trust our boy at? Why am I drawing a blank on Clemson's quarterback's name? Considering Klubnik, yeah, like Will Howard is Nico hasn't been fantastic. I know he's got the potential, so I just look around. I see a lot of blah at quarterback, but Dylan Gabriel's the only one where it's like I trust him.
I don't know why. I still like Will Howard more than everyone on this list other than Gabriel, just because his weapons are so good, and I feel like he's going to have a lot of guys open, and I do trust him to hit the open guy, and he does have some mobility, so I do like that. I'm still a Drew Aller guy, even though I hate Penn State. I think he's solid. I don't think Nico's ready. And I'm looking at this list here, this ranking of the top 12 QBs, and it has Quinn Ewers 9th. Like, could you imagine the beginning of the year I told you Texas makes the playoffs and Quinn Ewers is the 9th best quarterback? You'd probably be like, damn, we have like a ton of great NFL prospects. Like, this is loaded. And it's not at this point.
He just hasn't been very good. And, you know, I like Will Howard too. My problem with Ohio State is they have some injuries on the offensive line, and then they can't run the ball. And then when you can't run the ball, it makes it harder to pass. And then Will Howard's run game himself isn't there. they've been very limited offensively the last month or so, even going into that Michigan game. I think there were some concerns about like how the run game's going to hold up. But then again, I mean, Oregon in that Big Ten title game, their defense looked pretty soft. I mean,
It did. So that game was really kind of never in doubt. They were kind of always up 14, then up 7,
it
and
was like
14 7.
arms reach the whole game. But Penn State
Yeah.
did answer. Like that was in a weird way. Penn State gained respect, I think, from me, but then also from like football fans, even in a loss. It wasn't their typical like loss they have to an Ohio State or Michigan. Like I'm so used to them losing 28-7 and it never feeling like a game. But that was a game where it's like their offense did something. They took punches and they countered. That one interception from Drew Aller down to that they returned down to the one might have been the difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never felt like Oregon was going to lose because I just don't think Oregon's offense is capable of having like multiple 3-and-outs and a half. Like they're just too steady.
I think the only team that can keep up with Oregon's score for score is Ohio State, honestly. And they're going to be playing right away. Hopefully we get that matchup. The top of the bracket just scares me too much. Like Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, I can see them all coming out, and yes, maybe Clemson or Tennessee makes a run, but I think the bottom of the half of the bracket is where I personally want to attack it, and I have attacked it. I'd like Penn State to make the finals. I think they're going to beat SMU. I think they're going to roll over Boise State. The Georgia question mark, at quarterback, I just don't really know how that goes. But just from watching Georgia games this year, it's like every other Saturday, it seems like Georgia's on upset alert and they like barely beat someone in a low scoring game.
Yeah, they still have to win 3
And
games to win a natty, and that's
yeah,
the odds of them playing 3 of their best game. Like if they play their best game all 3 games, they probably win the national title because they still are the most talented roster. Probably them and Ohio State pretty close, but Georgia's defense. I want to see Oregon's offense versus Georgia's defense and see who wins that battle. Um, I really don't know how Notre Dame will score points. I could see Notre Dame winning an ugly one if it gets to that point. I just don't know if I see a world where like Notre Dame is putting up 30, 40 points on Georgia. So it's going to be like, how many points can Gunnar Stockton lead against a pretty decent Notre Dame team?
yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that. So you are sticking with the Oregon Georgia exacta.
Yeah,
That's
I lean
where you're going.
Oregon overall, but that's my exact. I did not have to pick a winner for that bet.
Gotcha. I think instead of that, I'd rather sprinkle smaller amounts on some less likely outcomes. Like I like Ohio State versus Penn State, and I like Ohio State versus Georgia. That's a lot of things have to go right for that to happen,
Yeah,
though. And it was like Oregon against Ohio State. What's that line going to be? It's going to be on a neutral field. I believe, I think Oregon at home, they were like 2.5 point favorites, but on neutral, they've already beat them. They look better. It's probably going to be, man, would 3 be too much?
it's going to be close
I don't know.
because I think it'll depend on how Ohio State looks versus Tennessee because we don't know how they're going to
Yeah.
respond to the Michigan loss. We don't know how they're going to respond to like, they've got a lot of guys who were paid a lot of money to come back and they've got NFL aspirations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys are like, hey, Ryan Day isn't it? Maybe this just isn't our year. We don't have what it takes. Like, I don't know what to expect internally, but I know that if they play their best, they could easily win it all. There's 6 teams probably that I could place a bet and feel like I have a shot. But then there's 6 teams on here. I'm like, you're throwing your money away. I'm not betting
Yeah.
SMU, Boise, Indiana, Clemson, Arizona State. Even I just don't see it with those teams.
Yeah. I don't think so either. It's the likelihood of these lesser teams playing their 3 best games of the year against the best competition. I just don't see it. So, I think potentially we need to, I guess, kind of if you want to put a future down, maybe just wait and see how Ohio State looks, because that Ohio State Oregon is just like, that's just like the domino that needs to fall. And honestly, you lose value the longer you wait, but
Yeah.
that just scares me to put too much in on either.
All of this is going to change after like 2025 or 6. Like they can redo the playoff structure. I hope they do. I would like to see some way where like after the first round games they reseed or something like that. So like an Oregon doesn't have to face an Ohio State in the second round. Maybe they would face an 11 seed SMU or a Clemson if they pull an upset, something like that. Because the way it's designed now, it doesn't really make sense. I don't really love that a Boise is getting a 3 seed. I don't love that an Arizona State is getting a 4 seed.
You don't have to be nice. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Dude, look, okay. I know we are Iowa fans here. Do you think if we got decent quarterback play, Iowa could beat Arizona State? I honestly think that they could compete with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big if, but yeah. I mean, Sam Leavitt isn't going to scare anybody, especially a Big Ten fan base. I think they have good skill players. Scataba. I mean, yeah. Every team in college football is so inconsistent this year that like anybody can almost beat anybody if one team doesn't show up.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. Okay, so first game, I think, Indiana Notre Dame's Friday, and going back to my trivia question, you were half right. They played the Chicago Physicians and Surgeons, winning 5-0 in 1900.
They beat a bunch of doctors.
Yeah.
I wonder what their like biggest lineman was, like 170.
I know, that's got to be hilarious. We got to do a deep dive on that. If that'd be funny, because it's like a guy gets hurt and needs surgery. It's like your teammate will just help you out, and
they're like the least athletic kids in the class join the team as the trainers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Crazy stuff. Oh, okay. All right. So moving on here, we have. I guess do you want to talk MLB free agency?
Yeah. So I bet Juan Soto to the Mets. You know this one hasn't cashed though, so I don't know if like it's already been announced. Do I have to wait till opening day for this? I'll have to read the fine print.
Probably.
Yeah, it just I had read a lot of things that like Steve Cohen was not going to be denied. Like if Juan Soto was going to play for someone besides the New York Mets, it was going to be like a lifestyle decision and not a financial decision. And nothing we had seen about Juan Soto in his career to this point said that money wasn't the end all be all for him. I mean, he turned down a deal for like $400 million. And I'm not going to lie, I think I might have came on here and said that was dumb, because I could not imagine a player getting more than $400 million at that point in time. And I still can't really believe he got 765 with the chance for 805. I mean, I mean, we just gave Shohei 700 million last year, and 92% of that's deferred. So really, he's getting like over $100 million difference, probably $150, $200 million difference in real cash value than what Shohei Ohtani got, who's a better hitter and a fielder and has the marketability.
Juan Soto is not even good in right field. He's going to be a DH by 2030.
Yeah. So like don't get me wrong, he's a top 5 player, top 5 most valuable player in the game, but that's just a ton of money to give to a 26-year-old and expect him to still be in the gym grinding like his life depends on it. I don't know. It just feels like that. And it's 15 years? That feels like that one could go really, really poorly. But luckily they have an owner who is so much richer than all the other rich owners that maybe it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. So with the Soto signing, do you think that this actually puts the Mets into like legit contention? Because yes, last year they were kind of like everyone's darling. Because we went to a Cubs Mets game mid-June. I know you went to one earlier in the year too. And they were just a middling team. They around the same record as the Cubs. They got hot at the end, rightfully so. Lindor was like an an MVP candidate. Finished second, I believe. Do you think that this actually propels them into kind of the likes of the Dodgers in the NL, where we're going to be seeing them in October every year?
No. Couple things. Like you said, they got hot at the end. I don't think that carries over year. Um, I don't think talent wise they were anything special. I think most people, myself at least, I'm speaking for myself here. I think the Padres were the second best team in the National League last year. It's just how the bracket sorted out, kind of like
That Game 5 against
right.
the Dodgers was essentially the
Yeah, I
World
think they were
Series.
not even the second best team in the NL. They were probably the second best team in the whole league, and so I think it's kind of similar to this college football playoff. It's just kind of how the bracket worked out this year. Um, to act like they, and also the Braves are going to be healthier. They lost Strider, Acuna. I know they just lost Max Fried in free agency, but like it's not like the Braves are going to go away. I still think like they have a long ways to go to like catch the Dodgers in terms of talent. Anything can happen in a 7-game series, but a guy named Blake Snell, ever heard of him? He also signed with the Dodgers for 5 years, 182 million. We got to see what happens with Roki Sasaki, who could come in here and be another really, really good Japanese starting pitcher on making no money on like the old Shohei Angels contract. He's rumored to be heading to the Dodgers as well, or at least to the West Coast. I know the Cubs are interested. Some other teams are too, but we know how that usually goes. I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers lost like half their starting rotation to injury last year and still won the whole thing. So it just seems a little silly for me to act like the Mets are suddenly going to be like, on their level. I think they're probably one of the top 5 teams. I would put them there. It goes like Dodgers. Who knows what happens with the Padres? We know they lost Snell. Cease is reportedly on the block.
Yep.
What happens with do the Braves fill Max Fried's spot in the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, Corbin Burns is still out there. Alex Bregman's out there. Those are probably the 2 biggest pieces
They're
from what I'm
Yeah,
seeing.
The Phillies are reportedly interested in Cody Bellinger. So like they're still out there looking for a big name. So I don't know, man. That division is just so hard to predict because coming into the year, it was
Yeah.
like everyone thought the Braves were the best team in the division. The Phillies were number 2 all season long. The Phillies were the best team in the division, but then come playoffs, it was the Mets, the 3rd best team in the division. So no, I'm not going into the year penciling them in for anything crazy. I mean, we watched the Padres have a better year with Soto gone as well. So like I'm not even out on the Yankees who just lost Soto.
You're not out
I'm
on the
not, no.
Yankees? Interesting. Well, I mean, I'd feel better if they got Bellinger, I guess. They need someone else. They need
They
Stanton
did
to hit
sign
well
Max
too.
Fried.
So,
They did get Devin Williams to close. So
yeah, that's
they've
true.
made some moves, but yeah, I wouldn't say I think they're like some juggernaut either. But also, the American League is just not as strong.
No, it's not. Um, not to cut you off, but to shift topics here, let's talk Cubs for a second. We can get into the Kyle Tucker news, but 49 minutes ago, Bruce Levine tweeted Cubs and Marlins talking deal for starter Jesus Luzardo. Marlins want controllable bat. James Triantos or Owen Casey would likely be in the
Mm-hmm.
deal. Your thoughts on that rumor?
I think once the Cubs signed or traded for Justin Tucker, there was going to be
Justin Tucker, Kyle Tucker, put some respect on his name.
a kicker. It's hard to mix those two up. I think it created a logjam in the outfield, right? I mean, you still have Sia Suzuki. He claims he doesn't want to be a DH. You've got Tucker and Wright, Cody Bellinger and PCA, who can both play center, and you still have Ian Happen left. So what do you do with these guys like Owen Casey, who's probably only going to be a left-handed hitting right fielder? I think that's going to get teams calling. The thing with Jesus Luzardo is he's been really inconsistent. He was awesome in 2022, good in 2023, and he wasn't very good this year. He went 3-6 with a 5 ERA, only made 12 starts. And then if you go back to 2021, he made 25 appearances and had a 6.6 ERA. So you're kind of buying low on a guy with a lot of potential. You're probably hoping to get some ballpark factor, some defensive run prevention behind him to help out as well. We know the Marlins are not good in either of those departments.
He does have 2 years of control as well.
He's 27. I don't like the idea of giving up Owen Casey for him. I'm fine with. I think in an ideal world, maybe you move him if you can get a deal done with Tucker for an extension. But I don't see a deal getting done for an extension, and I'm still not totally sure what the Cubs would do if he has a good year and he wants 350, 400 million.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just want to get your thoughts on that. I mean, really what matters is the deal they got done. They got Kyle Tucker from the Astros, probably an undisputed top 10. We think he's more of maybe a top 6 or 7 hitter in the MLB. Missed quite a bit of time last year with an injury, but was off to a red hot start and really was in contention for the top 2 or 3 position in the AL MVP market. Trade details: Cubs get Kyle Tucker, Astros get Paredes, Hayden Wesneski, and then their former first-round pick of the past year, third baseman Cam Smith. What do you think about that price? A little bit of an overpay? I mean, is it necessary? I kind of have my thoughts, but I'll let you get into it first.
I think it costs a lot to get a player like that, even on 1 year, and I think the Cubs had to meet that price. It does hurt. I don't think anyone wanted to give up Cam Smith. He made it to Double-A as a second-year sophomore in college and performed well. They used a top 15 pick on him or whatever it was. So I think a lot of people liked him. The Cubs also kind of have a hole at third. So you traded maybe your future third baseman. But then again, he's still young. He still has holes in his game. Like he wasn't going to be here in 2025, probably not even in 2026. You're looking at maybe end of 2026, 2027. Yeah, there's risk here. Like you could make that trade and Tucker walks in a year. You don't make the playoffs or make any sort of playoff push this year, and then Cam Smith goes and has a good career with the Astros. Like that's the worst case scenario. Hayden Wesneski's a guy that he's had his ups and downs. He never totally figured it out, but he has potential, and I think teams around the league valued him. And Paredes, they made that deal. It didn't really work out. I mean, I'm not bummed about losing Morel either. So, like, you can kind of think of it like
it's a wash.
Yeah, you
really.
basically put Morel in that deal. He's going to be more valuable to the Astros and the Cubs just because of the Crawford boxes, and he's such a pull hitter. I'm not really bummed about losing Paredes. It made sense at the time Jed made the deal, but things changed. It's just interesting because like there's all these dominoes that are going to fall. It sounds like Bellinger's probably going to go to the Yankees. There's talks of the Cubs looking at one of the starting pitchers for Seattle with like 3 years of control for Nico Horner. I think that's a little less likely. The Cubs have James Triantos, who's kind of blocked. They have Matt Shaw, their top prospect, who you're hoping can play third, but he's maybe more of a second baseman. And then, you've got Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara, your maybe two of your best hitting prospects, and they're outfielders. And now you've got really a log jam out there. So Jed has maybe like 100 different options of what he could do. And it's just he's got to go out there and make the right ones. So tough spot to be in, but that's the price. And I think the Cubs met the price.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the fans, I mean, us included, we'd be a little antsy seeing them roll out the same thing next year and just praying that it actually works. Because with that team last year, that was never going to be like an 100-win ball club. It was going to be win the NL Central and hopefully be like the 2 or 3 seed if you can. I mean, you got to take risks to increase your ceiling, increase your upside. So I'm here for it. I think it's fun. I think we just got to give Kyle Tucker the best experience we possibly can, and if that gives us a leg up in free agency next year, that's great. But I think you also pointed out the benefits of signing a guy and him leaving. There's you could potentially
Yeah,
gain a
you can get a
pick, correct?
compensation pick and late in the first round if you sign or if you make a qualifying offer, which the Cubs would, and another team, and he rejects it and another team signs him. So you could get a late first round pick back. So then losing that Cam Smith pick, who was top 15, maybe that pick is like 34th. Does that help ease the blow a little bit? Yeah. Getting rid of Paredes allows you to put Matt Shaw at third base, him starting on opening day, and then being in the rookie of the year conversation. Like, let's say he wins it, you get another first round pick for that. So you're kind of opening a path for all these little things that can maybe help your ball club kind of recoup some of these losses. Like, I'm not going to get super upset about Cam Smith when he was literally with the organization for like 4 months, and like I don't have some attachment with him. It's not like some guy we've had in the system for years. Um, I think it comes down to like, what do the Cubs want to do at third now? You got Matt Shaw. He's never played in the big leagues. He's not a natural third baseman. I think he can play there. Is he average at it? Is he below average? Are you just trying to get by with him until you get rid of Nico? I don't really know. But if he goes in there and he's an awesome third baseman and he hits the way we think he's going to hit, then you're not really going to miss Cam Smith. The problem is, he's kind of a profile where he's maybe a little more power than Nico Horner, and a third base is a spot you maybe want to get 30 homers. And you've already got Dansby, and you've already got Happ, and you've already got Nico, and you've already got Bush, these guys that are well-rounded hitters. But outside of Kyle Tucker and Sia Suzuki, you don't really have anyone that can hit the ball out of the park 35 times a year. So that's one concern I have.
Yeah.
And we know it's not coming from the catcher spot either.
No. I know we can get into a bigger Cubs preview once MLB continues to the dominoes keep falling and their roster gets filled out. But just as a teaser, start saving up money now. If you find spare change on the ground, put it in a jar. Maybe don't go out to eat next Saturday. Stay in. With that money you save, put it on Matt Shaw, NL Rookie of the Year. If he is on the opening day roster, even if he doesn't win, you're going to get insane value on that. I can promise you. He's going to be so live throughout the whole year. He performed so well at like the Team USA things over the past couple months. I think he had like a 7 RBI game and was rated the #1 future prospect who played in that game.
If there's anything we've learned too is, these young kids, their bats may not be there right away, but the defensive value matters. It kept Colton Cowser in a race that he didn't belong in. It kept Merrill in the race for the first half of the year when he couldn't hit. So like, he's going to play third base. He's going to be a spot starter at short, at second. Though he's going to accumulate value, even if he has some adjustments to make at the plate. So I like him a lot. I've already penciled 3 plays I want to put in for the tracker. We'll wait and see. I'm hoping we can get a better price because people are probably reacting to this Tucker news. But I want to bet Kyle Tucker MVP. I want to bet Matt Shaw Rookie of the Year, and I want to bet Cubs to win the NL Central. But I am biased.
And we are going to responsibly parlay that as well because you kind of have to. Imagine getting rich off that. Was there anything better in the world than getting rich on a correlated parlay with like Cubs just like kicking ass? That'd be amazing.
Manager of the Year in there too, because if that happens, he's winning that too. So, oh my God, it would be amazing. I'm just excited to watch a team that's going to hopefully play meaningful baseball through October. For people who were not a Cubs fan or like who were not like super invested in those like 2015 to 18 years, it was so much fun around that time of year. Just like looking at the playoffs, the seeding. Every day I'd wake up and be like, man, I hope none of our pitchers get hurt today because we're going to need them next month. Or like, man, I hope that this we can finish with this seed so we can play this team that we match up well in the second round. And like, it's stressful. The MLB playoffs are so stressful because it's like every pitch matters. But It's just so much different than all these other sports in the playoffs, and I'm hoping the Cubs can get back to being relevant again. It'll be 7 years since they've won a playoff game. Yeah, 7 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, just got to get back in the mix, and then from there, we've seen how the playoffs go. It's a crapshoot. You got to get in, and next thing you know, you could find yourself in the
Right.
NLCS, a couple games
Right.
away
A
from
lot
the
of
World
fun
Series.
storylines. Tito Francona back with the Reds as a manager. That's going to make things tougher. We
Yeah,
know the Pirates got stronger with Skeens and Jones and all those guys. The Brewers lost Willie. This is another one we probably should mention. Willie Adames signed a big
Adames. Yeah,
contract to the
he went to the
Giants. So
Giants.
maybe the Brewers are taking a step back. I think that a lot of years, and then they don't. So who knows? But he was a pain in our ass for the last 3-4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll continue to update this. There's still, like we said, a lot of big names. Profar, Bregman, Corbin Burns. Teoscar Hernandez sounds like he's going to stick with the Dodgers. Anthony Santander, Flaherty, Carlos Santana, Sean
A lot of guys on the
Manaea.
trade block too. I've heard Dylan Cease.
Is Pete Alonso? Pete Alonso's a free agent
out there.
too?
The Cubs
Okay,
are
yeah.
kicking the tires or whatever they say. Dylan Cease is reportedly on the block. There's some names out there that I think would get the casual fan interested. You'll get Bregman. I think could make sense. I don't see it, but I think it's possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, sounds good. Pivoting on to some more college football talk. This is just a little sports talk radio, but Bill Belichick goes to University of North Carolina to become the head coach. Sounds like, I mean, he wants control of a program, right? He wants to do it his way. I know he's got NFL connections, and I think getting recruits in the building and telling them, like, hey, my best friends are on the coaching staff for these 5 teams. You put in the work here, I'll vouch for you. They'll see it on the film. They'll see it with the techniques I'm teaching you. This is kind of going to be your one-way ticket to the NFL. So I can see the mindset there. I can also see him, he was in the kind of the running for the Falcons job last year. He ended up not even really, I don't even think he ended up being in the top 3 for that. There's just a lot of hesitation with his poor kind of GM behavior over the past couple of years, the poor
He's
drafts,
73.
and talent management. Yeah, so it's kind of going to the wayside there. Do you think that he would have gotten a job if he wouldn't have gone to college? If he would have waited until January when other teams fire their coaches?
I don't think so, and I think that's why he made this move. It didn't sound like that from the insiders that I've heard on the radio doing their hits, that he was getting the attention from these teams that he hoped and expected. I think he was kind of a little upset that he wasn't getting taken more seriously for some of these jobs. My biggest thing with this is I hope the whole stuff with like his son being the predecessor, I hope that's not true. I hope he makes his son earn it. I don't want some, a Brian Ferentz situation. He only signed a 3-year contract. I think that's super noteworthy, obviously because of his age, but also that tells me that he's got a Deion approach coming. What's the point of him recruiting high schoolers if he's going to be there 3 years? It never really made a ton of sense to me in the first place, because can you imagine Bill Belichick, big game week, he's sitting there and he's going, yeah, I got to watch some kid named Bryson's film who plays for St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida instead of getting ready for Miami at Hard Rock this week. I don't see him doing that. I see him as someone who wants to watch college film, some kid who maybe performed well at Appalachian State and is like, that's a guy we could use. I could see him doing that. He hired Mike Lombardi to be his GM. I have some thoughts on him, but I don't know how that's going to work out. Apparently, the rumor around here has been like a lot of former UNC players who played in the NFL think like Julius Peppers, those kind of guys, wanted Bill Belichick. Some of the donors didn't really want to because they thought that gave him too much control. He made demands of UNC to increase their NIL funding and apparently they got it done. So there, a lot of former players that have NFL money are going to help donate to the program. So I think that helps him a ton compared to like what a Mac Brown got. I'm sure Mac Brown said, they're like, why couldn't I have gotten this support to help buy a roster? I can coach. I've made ACC titles. I've won a national title. Where was my booster money? But sometimes it just takes getting the right guy for people to buy in. And maybe Iowa basketball should take notes on that. But that's another discussion. But yeah, I think you're going to see a big Deion situation where he's going to go after the portal crazy hard. He's going to recruit a lot of kids who maybe want to play up a level, find some diamonds in the rough, maybe pay some bags to get some quarterbacks. North Carolina is like the 10th best state for in recruiting or recruiting talent within the state of North Carolina. It's like the 10th best state. Yeah, there's Duke, there's Wake Forest, but I mean, they're still NC State. They're still the prime school in the state. You're going to have to compete with the Clemson and the South Carolinas as well. But I think it'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, nevertheless, we're going to be dialed into a lot more UNC games than we otherwise would.
Yeah, it's just going to be exciting. It's a once in a lifetime thing to get an all-time coach at your school. It's, like you said, it's a 3-year contract. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? I don't think he's going to crash and burn. I also don't think they're going to win a national title. But can they sneak in? Can they be like an SMU that gets in as a 10 or 11 seed? Yeah, I don't see why not, depending on the quarterback that they get in the building.
They're a school who's never really been great at football. I was surprised to hear they haven't won the ACC since 1980. We're talking 40-some years. They've made conference titles. Mac Brown took them, but they were never really close. Like, they got blown out by the big boys, the Clemsons of the world. So I think at the very least he can get them to a 9, 10, 11-win team, depending on their schedule, and make them interesting again. And they'll be on TV all the time. And maybe he won't want to recruit a bunch of kids, but he'll just be a good coach, and he'll have a bunch of staffers that'll go on the road and handle all of that, and he just has to coach ball.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. So we can do like an extra deep dive into like their season win totals. I know there's been some extra, like FanDuel has an extra tab on Bill Belichick to UNC, so we can break that down in due time. But obviously we got to get this season wrapped up first. So okay. We have about 10 minutes left because I want to wrap this up in under an hour. Iowa hoops. So they just played Iowa State last week, or I guess a couple days ago now. They were winning for 35 minutes of that game. Or is it 38 minutes?
I think Iowa State took the lead with a little over 3 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, so Iowa's winning the whole game. At halftime, I believe they were up 12, and then it got down to 7 right before half. It was 44-37. And then the second half, Iowa State outscores them 52-36 and ends up winning by 9. Obviously, Iowa was at home. I feel like a lot of things went right for them throughout the game. It's a game where you see yourself winning at a certain point in the game, and you're like, we probably shouldn't be here. We need to take advantage of this. And they squandered. Did not do that.
And it's just another example of Iowa basketball, the Charlie Brown with kicking the football. Like, they pull it out from the fans. No program's better than Iowa basketball, like getting the fans excited, or the second they start to believe or get their hopes up, it gets taken right back. I mean, we could get into a whole conversation about, the head coach, the NIL, the future of the program, but I'll save that. In terms of the 2024-2025 Iowa men's basketball team, I circled 3 things that I think are the problems with this team. Are you ready? Item number 1, Iowa ranks 348th in point distribution from free throws. So they don't get to the line. That's what that tells me. They are 276th in free throw percentage. So when they do get there, they don't make them. In their 3 losses this year, in 2 of those 3 losses, they missed 7 free throws at least. So those are freebies, and it's cost them. And that's not. And then you have to think about all the front end of 1-and-1s and stuff in those numbers too. It seems like an easy fix, but it feels like this has been a problem for a while. And it's crazy. Can you believe that out of my 3 things wrong with this team, I'm not going to mention defense?
Yeah, that's hard to believe. I mean, they're 89th in Ken Palm on defense. And we've heard, a lot of our friends say this is not like the same old Iowa team, right? Well, you're right. Their defense got like marginally better and their offense got a lot
Yes.
worse. Like Ken Palm had them as a top 20, top 15 offense. They were as high as like 4 a couple years ago. And now they're 30th. So they're obviously still in that first quarter of teams, but that's not
No.
enough. And not even to mention they gave up 18 offensive rebounds to Iowa
Dude,
State.
you're stealing my
Good luck
thunder.
winning
All
that
right.
game.
So number 2,
Sorry.
they suck against a zone. Listen to these stats. They shoot 32.7% from 3 against the zone compared to 38% in man. Their turnover percentage is 5% higher when facing a zone than facing man. And personally, I think a lot of this has to be blamed on Sanford because he has sucked this year. He can't shoot. He's not efficient. There's probably a lot of times where he's getting a quote unquote open look, or the clock is running out because they're not getting an open look and he has to force something and he's just not making them. But yeah, they're shooting. So to summarize, they're shooting like 6% better from 3 against man. They're turning the ball over 5% less against man. If you're a team playing Iowa, why would you run man?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
that
hit
makes
on
no
number
sense.
3, the
So
most glaring issue of that Iowa State game. That was absolutely pathetic. They ranked 289th in the country in defensive rebounding. They are the 24th worst in America in allowing second chance points. You can pin a lot of this on Owen Freeman directly, but I don't want to do that. I mean, his defensive rebounding percentages are down like a couple percent. He is not winning a lot of these one-on-one rebounding battles. I know I think he was sick earlier in the year, so I don't want to overreact, but for Iowa basketball 2024-2025 to make the NCAA tournament, which I think they should. I highlighted they need to get healthy. You've had Traore, you've had Cooper Koch, however you pronounce it, getting injured. Those are winning players. Um, Dix, Josh Dix, and Peyton need to get healthy. They both had wrist injuries. Peyton needs to play better, but also I want to see Drew Thelwell get more minutes. I think when he's on the court, he's not afraid. I think Brock Harding has been fine,
no.
but those two can be out there at the same time. I like when Thelwell's on the court. The metrics back up that all of Iowa's best 5-man rotations include him. Like their top 3-4 rotations include him as one of those 5. And you can see it visually. He gets to the rim, he plays defense, he gets the crowd into like he's him and Traore are both have been really good pickups through the portal.
And he did Thelwell, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was him.
Yeah,
He hit those
Washington
2
State.
threes against Washington State. And if he misses even one of those, they probably lose that game. And then this season is just like a complete
you're talking
disaster.
like what, a 6-4 team already without him. But then the rest of it's kind of like I don't know what you can do to fix some of this. I mean, some of it's just your roster, it's the talent. Like you can go to practice and you can do some rebounding drills. You can go to practice and you can work on free throws. But I think the most simple answer is Owen Freeman needs to play better. Peyton Sanford needs to play better. I'm confident Josh Dix will be fine. He's looked good. He's just had his wrist injury and he wasn't aggressive during those few games, but he's looked better. I trust him. I still think Owen's the best player on the team, but he's not elevating his game. I'm worried about a sophomore slump. I think Brock Harding has actually been one of the better players on the team this year. And he probably shouldn't be for this team to reach its potential. He should not be one of your top 3, 4, 5 best players. So yeah, it's get healthy and have your best players play better, and you can probably make the first round, win a game or so. But yeah, I mean, and when people talk about Fran, I just want to throw this stat out there. Fran is the 25th longest tenured head coach in college basketball. When you start talking about fatigue, I think that's 90% of it. Because when I look at this list, the 24 coaches ahead of them, a lot of these are small schools. Think a coach from Bellarmine, Utah Tech, Northeastern, North Florida, and North Carolina Central. Like these are These are not the same conversations. And then all the other coaches at big schools, it's Bill Self, it's Izzo, it's Matt Painter, Mark Few. Like everybody who's been at the school the amount of time that Fran has either made a national title, won multiple conference titles, won a national title, or they're at a small school that like they built that program and they're just happy to be there and they're happy with them staying. It's not the same comparison. It's not the same sport, damn near. So just something to consider.
Yeah.
Leaving you with that.
No, I think that's enough. I think we got to get some Iowa b-ball folks to kind of fight back at us on this, because I think a lot of people don't want to face the music. They're somehow happy with 18 to 20 win seasons where they're a 7 seed and they have a chance to go to the Sweet 16 and then get crushed by a 1 or 2 seed. That is Iowa basketball.
Or be a fan.
Yeah.
Maybe we're casuals. Maybe we're meatheads. I don't know, but that's just
maybe we're not.
Maybe we're into this for entertainment, and that's like what fans want. Is they want to be entertained and they want to believe in something in the future, and that's just not what they're getting right now. And we could talk about Carver. We could have a whole podcast on Carver Hawkeye Arena, but we'll spare everyone.
Yeah, we'll get into Big Ten play here. I'm excited to go to the Iowa, UCLA, Iowa, USC games. I'm going to try to get to both, if not both, just one of them coming up in January. So hopefully we can rattle off some wins here. We've identified the issues. I'm sure the coaching staff has too. You have time to fix it. It's okay, but you got to start winning. You got to start playing better. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting season, but we'll continue to keep an eye on the Hawks, and we will have future podcasts dedicated to talk about them as well, because I know a lot of listeners on this pod really do enjoy the Iowa segments. So, but okay, that's pretty much wraps up our episode. Really appreciate everyone sticking out with us. I know we took a couple months off. So yeah, I mean, over these past couple months, been dealing with some things. I lost my father-in-law suddenly, and he was one of the biggest fans of this pod. So really appreciate his support, and all of the rest of you guys who have been tuning in as well. So more episodes coming. We'll have an episode next Thursday or Wednesday. Get into some NFL, talk some awards, and get ready for the college football playoff. We'll definitely have some 6-pack picks coming up next week. So looking forward to talking to you next time, Slade, and we'll catch you guys next time. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.